Shocking. We begin with the front pages of the daily, starting with Vanguard. Vanguard is leading with NECA oil marketers to federal government. Shun Pride reviews subsidy removal and flotation of naira. List anti-business policies of government, worsening employment index, other causes of nation's economic woes. Peg forex rate at 750 naira to $1. Oil marketers beg Tinubu. You can see that on page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. And on page 10, Akeredolu, governors, ex-governors, minister pay last respect. 10 billion naira fraud. EFCC detain ex-Kwara governor Abdul Fattah Ahmed. On page 19, economic hardship, saboteurs working against us. That's according to SHETTIMA. Federal government to probe 23 trillion naira ways and means. That from Edun. As MOFI launches 100 billion naira fund to attract investors. On sports, page 31, Algeria dumps Pesayo options for Petkovic. And on page 9, ASU rejects new IPPIS insists on FEC's directive on removal of varsities. Tinubu directs payment of state house electricity debt. And according to Afeba Barela, where government plays its part in the provision of implements insecurity, financial aid, and agriculture-friendly policies, people will be encouraged to go back to agriculture. You can see the stories on pages 26 and 22. Stories above the banner on page 4. Federal government targets $10 billion to increase FX liquidity and stabilize naira. That's according to Tinubu. Edo 2024, APC, SWC divided over Idahosa and Opeebolo. And groups fear APC may not have a candidate. Labour Party holds World Congress, replies Apata on INEC's letter. Insecurity bill to establish state police skills, second reading in House of Reps. And lastly, on Vanguard newspaper, Labour Party crisis, state chairman denied plot to suspend Obi and back Abure. Now the Guardian is leading with confusion as naira crisis defies interventions and fuels inflation. You can see that on page 6. 4 in every 10 Nigerians are in debt. Bill for state police passes, second reading in House of Reps. Investors lose 2.6 trillion naira in 2 days amid low confidence. Falana insists on price control as SHETTIMA blames the saboteurs for food crisis. Marketers seek state of emergency on refineries. Senate queries a 30 trillion naira facility for Buhari and others. Lastly, on Guardian, Neymar, 151 houses affected by downpour in Lagos. That can be seen on Panorama page 12. The Punch is leading with Senate to probe Buhari government. Emefiele over 30 trillion naira CBN loans. Senate links food security crisis to reckless ways and means loan under Buhari cabinet. Panel to investigate CBN's 10 trillion naira anchor borrower scheme. $2.4 billion forex fraud and others. You can see that on page 17. And here there are 3 pictures showing the motorists and also the tricycle riders and people walking in the rain. But the writer here says motorists lament poor drainage as flood submerges Lagos roads. That can be seen on pages 4 and 5. And we have a zookeeper killed trying to rescue woman from lion. That's according to Nasu Chair. Federal government seeks $10 billion to stabilize exchange rate as naira tumbles. Federal government blames opposition for food crisis, uncovers 32 smuggling routes. Stories above the banner, state police, governors to appoint a police commissioner, bills list for conditions for CP sacking. CPs can be removed without PSC Assembly's approval. And you can see that inside the Punch newspaper. And lastly, The Nation, SHETTIMA will battle forces bent on subverting country. ONSA, CBN, NFIU go after saboteurs undermining naira. And on page 3, 60,000 MT of grains coming to bring down food prices, says Minister. Ayedatiwa, Luke, Fayemi, Otudeko, others honor Akeredolu. Lagos begins a process to move computer village. Tinubu directs payment of State House electricity bill. And lastly, on the Nation newspaper, truck owners resume petrol loading, and 3 Edo APC aspirant petition NWC. You can see that on pages 4 and 28 of the Nation newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of the dailies this morning. Join us after the break for the analysis. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today News on Vanguard Live. I'm Jamlola Ogunshaki. And this morning to review the front pages of the dailies with us is Mr. Gbero Olajigbe. He is the Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. Good morning, Mr. Gbero.
Good morning. Always a pleasure being with you.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And let's talk about the stories on the front pages. Now, with the queues increasing at the filling stations, the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, NECA, now they've advised federal government to eschew pride and review the removal of fuel subsidy and the floating of nation's currency, the naira, warning of looming unemployment crisis, particularly with the current harsh economic situation. And this is also in the same vein as NECA's position came on that on the day oil marketers under the aegis of the National Oil and Gas Suppliers Association of pleaded with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to peg the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar at the 2024 budget benchmark of 715 naira to a dollar, because naira now is heading to 2,000 naira to a dollar as of this morning. What do you think about this?
Well, I have said it for the uptake time. The trade policy, both the policy of oil subsidy, the so-called oil subsidy removal, and that of the floating of naira, they were recklessly taken. They were not bold decisions. Bold decisions are always backed by nearly faultless contextual analysis that carried along analysis of consequences of policy action. So these policies did not come with such. So it's just like somebody that just stumbled, let me look like a strong man, and took a decision. And that reckless decision has blown on everyone's faces today. It was not a bold decision, it was a reckless decision. One, on the oil subsidy removal, I have said this several times, there is no subsidy. What Nigerians have been paying for all along is inefficiency of government to produce oil, to refine oil in Nigeria. As long as we continue to, okay, now look at the volatility of naira. Has it not exposed everything we have been seeing? Who among the exporters, the queue you are seeing on the road is because those who import fuel, they have seen the worthlessness of naira, and it's no longer commercially viable for them to so do. And they were cautious about how they are going to embark on it. That is the nature of queue you are seeing. And floating naira, how do you float currency that is not without backing it up with productivity? You are producing nothing, exporting virtually nothing, and you are talking of floating naira. It's uncalled for. It's not explainable in economy, in development economies, that you float to naira and you are not backing it up with productivity. Then you have left it to the oscillations of demand and supply, which the winds that is not blowing at your favor. Who does that? So it didn't consider all the parameters and ingredients of this economy that it was elected to manage. And that is why we are having this problem. And this thing, you can see the spiral consequences now. Spiral consequences on cost of living, that is high cost of living, on falling standard of living, on the social consequences that is already creating near anarchy and state of anomaly across the federation, protests and criminality, spike in crime and criminality, including terrorism. And even if you benefit now from that and remove the removal of subsidy in quote, are you not using it to respond to social causes that you didn't consider it have an issue? Many people can no longer cope with their own existence. That is the face of the matter. They cannot access basic things. As a matter of fact, Nigerians has returned to obedient state of nature where life is brutish, nasty, and short. As I'm talking today, a copper, you are paying a copper 33,000 naira. You can't even take the copper to work for 5 days with the current situations. And these are children that are not from their, are not normally from their areas of habitual residence. I'm just isolating that so that you know the type of sorrow you expose even young Nigerians to with this reckless policy. So it's across board. Look at the cries of the market women. They are out of business. Those selling fish, they can no longer sell it. So you have rendered them redundant. They are unemployed. The small scale businesses like Baba, and without energy, you don't have electricity, and then they have to buy petrol. They can't afford it. So they are closing their shops. Even those who got their ESF, do they have customer again? You that cutting before 500 naira and they say 2,000 now. Is it not better for you to leave your ear and eat if you can find it? So Nigerians are in dire strait of exploring real economic term of opportunity cost. And the government is not understanding this. They thought it's a joke. And it's appalling. The type of blame, they blame marketer today, they blame those smuggler for their inefficiency tomorrow, blame all over places now. How is that a good policy? Any Nigerian that is making sacrifice now is just a sacrificial goat. The sacrifice is not going to yield anything at the end. Because if you are making sacrifice and you are sure there is a pointer that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, you will endure. And you are doing this within the context of extravagance in government.
But Mr. Bello,
extravagantly on government functionaries.
Can the president,
what is the benefit of taking over 1,000 people to COP24 climate change conference? What is the benefit aside from spending Nigerian money recklessly to those who did not even deserve to be there in the first place? And yet the government is not even cutting down the cost of governance. Maybe I will not let you know what cost of what bold decision looks like. If Tinubu wants to take bold decision today, he should send an executive bill to the National Assembly, one, to go for unicameral legislation that is scrapping Senate. Nigeria will be left with a unit of legislature and not the type of bicameral we have today. Secondly, it should stop the so-called fraudulent, immoral, and unlawful constituencies allowances they are paying. And these are the money that they gather at the end of month or quarterly whenever they take it, and take it to Bureau de change and buy dollars with it. These are how the round tripping is going on and frustrating economy that the poor people are paying for today. So
is it possible for the president to peg naira at 750 to $1?
How is it possible? They have tried to manipulate it before. There was a time they brought $10 million into economy. At that time, I was telling people, this is hand of Esau, and they are hands of Esau. The language is that of Jacob. You can't make progress with what you are artificially creating. At that particular time, naira dropped from I think 1,000 naira, dollar dropped from 1,000 to something 960, and people were jubilating. And I told them it was mechanical, it was manipulated, so that people will feel that they are doing something at that particular time, because it was nearly getting to the tipping point at that time. Except what you are, how do you manipulate that when you are not producing? How do you manipulate that when you are still import dependent, virtually on everything, particularly on the importation of oil? Look at the game they have been playing. Dangote has started refining and everything. To the extent we are hearing that Dangote will even be bringing crude oil from US. What are we joking in this country? Tinubu has no escape route except the suggestion I made that he should now that there is increase in the barrels of oil we produce up to $1.8 million barrel per day. He should dedicate 400,000 per day. Let them refine it, whether Dangote or nearby refinery should do that, and then crash the price per unit of per liter of fuel to 250 at the pump, and that will immediately reduce drastically the cost of basic items like food, like clothing, like whether cement or whatever, because most of these costs are incurred through unacceptable transportation costs within the country.
So can we also blame the increase in price of foodstuffs in Nigeria to the government?
When I look at Nigerians at times, that how is food, how is a yam that we produce on the ground here, how is it affected by dollar? And why are people doing like this? They are forgetting that the farmer, they are part of the integral part of this economy, a very painful economy. You want them to sell their own sheep so that they won't be able to pay their school fees, children's school fees, so that they won't be able to give their own, because they love you more than the president, so that they won't be able to pay for the transportation of their own children. You don't know that they even transport those yam that you think that we do everything here. It's simplistic. When that type of analysis is simplistic, it's pedestrian, and of course it does not sit in situ in the truest economic principle of value that control to demand and supply. So those are the dynamics of economy. It's just too simple that what are we saying? Is it not from my well I dig water and I'm selling it for 10 naira per bucket? Okay, if I'm digging, do you know the cost of even digging putting the what do we call this thing that we do now? Drilling the water. Do you know what it costs me? You are just counting the water alone. Do you know the more amount I used to transport it? I have somebody saying that pure water, ordinary pure water, the price has increased. It has to increase because it has to be transported. Of course, the machine producing it, most of them are imported too. Secondly, the man labor, the labor that you are paying, assuming that you are paying your laborer 5,000 before, and he spent that time he was spending maybe 200 on transportation. Now he's spending 2,000 on transportation. You still want to be paying him 5,000. Is it sustainable even for him to be coming regularly to your office and everything? So we should look at we should have a broad view of what economic realities portend, and we should not be just be doing local analysis that has no economic sense and that does not consider economic parameters and principles that determines price, and of course that allow people to exist and assess basic needs of life.
All right, with what is going on, the Vice President, Senator Shun, pointed accusing fingers at smugglers and politicians as being behind the attempt to pull the nation backward. He said these people are working to undermine the effort of the president's administration to revamp the Nigerian economy.
He should clap for himself, because he's not elected to look. This is a country of law and order, and there's no need to be sharing blame as a sitting vice president and chairman of an economic council. You have a president that almost has what you can describe constitutionally as almost almighty power, and that has power to do anything, to arrest, to prosecute, to jail people and everything, and he's doing nothing. And you are blaming ordinary people that crimes are committed everywhere. But the difference is that you have a government in place that appreciate that law and order must prevail. So except they have agreed that they have surrendered to lawlessness, maybe their blames and excuses could be accepted. But these people should sit tight, and the problem is the policy they initiated, which was a very long policy, a policy that did not recognize the need of that particular time. You just came into office. I heard them now, they are saying Nigeria should be patient with them. How can were they patient with Nigeria when you brought in a very obnoxious policy on your first day in office, the day of your swearing in, creating chaos? Somebody that should just calm down as he's been sworn in, recognize that Nigeria has been a very divided nation, and begin to build national consensus in order to create a national community, rather than bringing policy that economically rattle Nigeria, disorientate Nigeria, further divide Nigeria, impoverish Nigeria, and as a matter of fact, killing Nigerians.
All right, still talking about the economy and what is going on, the Nigerian Customs Service, they've announced its intention to distribute the seized rice and other food items. They said that the measure that was to reduce the food security challenges in the country.
Oh God. Look, Nigeria is not about palliative. You don't govern by palliative. People are suffering. How long are you going to do that? What is the measure of rice? Even the one he has them to release from the food bank. What is the measure? How far will that go? You are talking of the calamitous cascading of naira value now, moving to near 2,000 per dollar and over 2,000 for pounds. So it's not a sprint. It's what you call what do we call this long race? It's a marathon. Nigerians are in for a marathon that has no. In fact, you can only know the vestige of beginning, at least from Tinubu's declaration of extermination of a policy of supporting subsidy on May 29, 2023. But it has no prospect of ending. It has no prospect of ending because you are not in control of the parameters of economic situation that will now create harmony, peace, and ensure stabilization, whether social stabilization or economic stabilization. So you are not in control of those parameters because you have chosen to be the wisest person in possibly jungle by taking that policy that is ready. There is a way of killing cats, many ways of killing rats, I mean. Even if you want to remove subsidy, was that the first thing you should have done? When Nigeria was even in chaos and scattered all about with different beliefs, different techniques falling apart from Nigeria to the extent Nigeria has become so almost unlivable that 8 out of 10 young Nigerians want to get out by force just to leave Nigeria. Those are situations you should have addressed.
Mr. Bowe, talk about those. Talk about the people protesting. Will this help in any way?
Well, that is the language of democracy. Protest means you are saying no to a particular policy. It means that you are disagreeing with the position of government. So it's left for the government and their signal to government that do we reverse this policy or how do we manage these consequences? And I have suggested how to do this, whether in my write-up in the that has been sent to them, or the package or publish, or even in these interviews that I've had severally with groups and organizations and institutions in the media. So there are ways out. I listened to the president where he said there is no other way of doing that. That is, a president should not get to end of thinking capacity. A president must not get to end of thinking capacity. Even when you are thrown into den of lion, there is a way out. The way out is what the president should be looking for, and not throwing in the towel. that is that I fit do. That is not the language of a leader. So he should now calm down, look at the situation, review the situation. What can we really do to get out of this doldrum? He should think out of the box, and if he cannot, he should. There are ways of good Nigerians who can provide solution to this in terms of short-time solution, medium-time solution, and long-time solution. How can the one he was saying that he was meeting those Greek that is planning to support farmer? Okay, so when you plant this year, you will eat it tomorrow, and today you will eat it tomorrow. Is that the gestation period? People are falling down and die because of hunger. They can't access medical care because they are poor. And you are talking of a long-term solution. So if you quickly step into it now, look at the short-time solution. I've provided short to medium-time solution. That is the way you should go now. That refine 400,000 barrel per day for local consumption and crash the price at pump price at 250. So it will reduce a lot of things, and it will put a lot of young people back to work who depend on petrol for their small scale businesses, like some are selling fish, no light, and they power their generator with all this type of thing. The barbers, the welders, and everything, those that have been automatically and illegitimately retrenched to be brought back. This is how economy grows. Not focusing on the macroeconomy alone, and then the macroeconomic decision you have taken is crippling the microeconomic survival of your people, of the country, and of course importantly the survival of your people. So you don't take that type of decision. Every decision has consequences. It is your own. It's not about taking decision and you say you have taken bold decision. He didn't take any bold decision. He took reckless decision that have backfired.
Lastly, I just want you to quickly comment on this one. On Monday morning, a zookeeper was killed by a lion in OAU. I just want you to comment on it. What do you think about it?
It's really unfortunate, Harry, and of course, contemplating and reflecting on it, it diminishes us as human beings. And this is somebody, a lion tender or animal tender person that have kept this zoo for 9 years, has been with the lion for 9 years and others, possibly friendly and everything. But we should realize that no matter how friendly we are to danger, it can happen at any time, especially when you lower our guard. We have not seen the report as ordered by the university, but what I can say is that consequential damages or that should be paid to the family of this man, because he definitely has children and wife, and he died so suddenly, so horribly, and inhumanly. So they should support the family, and of course, if we cannot keep zoo in Nigeria, because the way we should just forget all this chakara we are doing. Human beings are not feeding, and then you think that okay, some people still have food in their belly to even protest. Animal is not like that. If lions don't feed for some time, they will turn on even the closest friend they have, because they want to survive. They say that the law of the jungle is survival. Nigeria cannot keep. If you go to just feed, animal feed, what do they call this thing? You will see malnourished type of animals there. They are not properly kept, they are not fed, and everything. Why keeping this thing when we cannot manage them? They are wild animals. No matter how you think you are domesticated them, so they are wild, and they have never lost their wildness. We should appreciate that, and then we should stop exposing people to danger. If you don't feed your dog, it will not even shake tail, and when it stops shaking tail, and you continue to put the dog in hunger, one day it will back. And if you continue, one day it will bite. It will bite. So that is the nature of animal. They just behave well when you try to treat them as human beings. But all said and done, we cannot bring back the life of the man. It's unfortunate, it's sad, it's intolerable when institutions cannot feed even their staffs. They can't pay their staff well. They should stop keeping animals. You saw, if you read newspaper of yesterday, a professor died at Mina, Federal University of Technology, Mina. The ASU president came out that it was because he couldn't afford medication that he died. I'm talking of a professor, poorly paid, and then that type of university system will keep animals wild as lion that must feed on meat every day. It's a carnivorous animal, for God's sake, and it will not pay any prey if it's poorly kept. So may the soul of the departed rest in peace, and may God console the family.
Amen. Let's end this on a lighter note this morning with Mr. and Mrs. And the first person speaking is Mrs. Mrs. says that you were grinning like a schoolboy when she was introduced to you as your PA. She's beautiful and could do no wrong. Now that she made away with your $4,000, do you expect any sympathy from me? Mr. replies, but she's no longer my personal assistant. Mrs. says, that's your personal issue.
Every decision has consequences.
Everyone.
That is what we have seen now. You take a decision, it doesn't matter whether you lie to your wife. When the consequences come, you pay for it, and of course you are likely to be ashamed at that. So when we take decision, particularly decision that will affect our lives, our family, our finance, let us be so careful. If you don't love your wife, why did you marry her? So the option is for you to now repent, and as a matter of fact, put your egg in one basket. And of course, they say if you put your egg in one basket, if you put your egg in one basket with somebody that is stable, your egg will be safe. But now, even if you put your egg in 10 baskets, there are a lot of people hungry that will escape with your eggs.
Yes.
So just let us manage ourselves at family level. This is a very difficult time, and we should not be losing our resources anyhow. True to our self-interest, our Epicurean interest, just seeking for pleasure, seeking, and we begin to mess up with ourselves and family too. So, Mrs. Condolence to both Mr. and Mrs. for the loss, for the financial loss.
Yes.
Yeah.
And $4,000 right now, it's not small money in Nigeria.
That you are talking of what you call it, you are calling of 4-8 million.
Yes.
So it's not.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gurolajibi, for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure being with you. Thank you very much.
Yes, do want to like and follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki. Have a lovely Wednesday.